Hi everyone and welcome. My name is Caroline Zamora. I'm the Chief Deputy County Clerk.
And I'm Communications Coordinator Cynthia Mendoza.
And we are the host of Preserving History and Democracy, a podcast hosted by the Doña Ana County Clerk's Office.
It's a podcast dedicated to the fascinating history of Doña Ana County elections, and we'll also be highlighting the work of other Doña Ana County departments.
This is the Preserving History and Democracy podcast. Hi everyone and welcome to our newest episode of Preserving History and Democracy. Again, my name is Caroline Zamora and I'm the Chief Deputy County Clerk, and I'm joined by...
I'm Communications Coordinator Cynthia Mendoza, and we are once again joined by our producer Bernardine Caporale. Welcome, Bern.
Hello, thanks for having me.
We love having you here, Bern.
It's always going to be a fun episode when we have Bern.
It's true.
Well, this might take a little strain.
Ooh.
Yeah, you might think of hiking after we do today.
Oh, hey, I mean, that's not a bad thing.
Hikes are nice.
No, this is a beautiful thing. Today's episode is going to be about Dripping Springs and its history.
Fun.
That's so cool. So Dripping Springs is one of my favorite places here locally. Its beauty and accessibility really entices hikers. And you can trail all year long. That's what's beautiful about living here in Las Cruces. We have 360 days of sunshine.
That's why I moved here.
See, Bern. That's why Bern moved here. And so really, we're going to be talking about things throughout the trail. And we're going to start with the visitor center and up to the springs itself. So let's go ahead and take a closer look and go ahead and jump in and see what we have.
Well, we're going to start with Colonel Eugene Van Patten. He was originally from upstate New York, but had an uncle who needed a worker to drive a stagecoach in El Paso, Texas, thus ending up here in the Southwest.
Bern, he was from your hood up in New York.
That's right. Actually, he was from way upstate.
Okay.
So I'd hardly call it the hood.
Okay, got it.
Well, from that first job, he had quite an adventurous life. He had been in the Confederate Army during the Civil War. He went on to engage in a battle with the Native Americans and became a sheriff of Doña Ana County. He became a justice of the peace, the probate clerk, among many other positions for the county. There are many documents in the vault that show his civil service duties, as well as newspaper articles about his time as a Doña Ana County sheriff, which we're going to provide a link for all of that cool stuff.
In the 1870s, Van Patten purchased some of this Dripping Springs land for a resort, which gave the people of Las Cruces and El Paso a reprieve from the summer heat. As much as we like those 360 days of sunshine, you sometimes just want to get away to where it's a little cooler. And the mountains definitely provide that. The resort was known to have quite a following, as it often appeared in the newspaper. For example, the June 22, 1907 issue of the Rio Grande Republic noted Van Patten's Dripping Springs' popularity and the weather, and coincidentally that same issue showed Van Patten's retirement from the service at age 64.
Oh, wow.
That is so cool.
That was his retirement plan, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Yeah.
I like that plan.
Everyone should have one.
Yeah,
exactly.
So in 1884, Van Patten's daughter, Emilia Van Patten, married Santiago Azcarates, and they were homesteaders around Dripping Springs near the resort, near her dad's resort. So I can imagine that it was a kind of a long and difficult life out there. It's just kind of a canyon around the Organ Mountains. But like her father, Emilia Van Patten Azcarates was active in the community. She was a standing member of the WIA, and I've actually heard of this organization a couple times. The WIA is the Women's Improvement Association. They're responsible for bringing a lot of improvements to the Las Cruces, Doña Ana County area. One of the kind of most prominent that we still hear about is the Pioneer Women's Park.
Nice.
I love that park.
It's beautiful.
I have been there, yeah.
That's one of my favorite
little
parks in
park.
town.
Yeah, it's sweet.
I love that area of Las Cruces too. Like the houses are still
Yeah.
really old school and stuff. So it's
Yes.
pretty cool. I wonder if Azcarates, is that from El Paso?
I don't know. We'll have to do
Azcarates
some
Park?
Yeah, Azcarates Park. Yeah, we'll have
I wonder
to
if that's
to dig.
related.
Right.
We'll have to look into that one. Well, tuberculosis was running rampant, and the medical advice at the time was to move to a dry desert climate. Doña Ana County offered that right environment. In a previous podcast, we had heard about people coming to Doña Ana for treatment of TB, such as Cricket Kugler's father. That was our first episode of the season. And Hiram Hadley's son, who fell ill, presumably had tuberculosis as well.
The whole area, if you think of like Grant County and, Baird has the medical facility around Silver City. Very famous, even like in Arizona, of Doc Holliday. If you ever watched Tombstone, you know Doc Holliday's story, dying of TB. But the whole Southwest was really, because it was so dry here, it's still so dry here, and it was just really great treatment for tuberculosis.
Yeah, that makes sense that there was something here. I mean, we have the perfect climate for that, right? So.
And the entrepreneurs took advantage of that and
yes, they did.
built some things. I'm going to talk about the doctor involved in that.
Oh,
Got all the research.
Dr. Nathan Boyd, originally from San Francisco, also had a family member suffering from the disease, his own wife. In 1910, in an attempt to save her and others, Dr. Boyd purchased land and built the TB sanitarium in Dripping Springs. He had already been renting land from Van Patten and was homesteading on it. Boyd and Van Patten had legal disputes over the land, and eventually Van Patten went bankrupt, and the land went to Dr. Boyd for only $1.
Ooh. I wonder how much that was back in the day, because right now $1 nothing, right? But I mean, I'm sure back then it was a little bit more valuable.
But not much
land for $1. Yeah,
got lucky.
Yeah.
Well, from what I've heard, their battles went back and forth for so long in the course that eventually, it bankrupted him.
Wow.
So he got the deal.
Wow.
$1, not too bad. I wish you could still get land for $1.
Yes. So Dr. Boyd's large building that sits on stilts housed the dining room. And he had planned to build a state-of-the-art center for tuberculosis treatment. He had not been able to complete his massive project, and Dr. Boyd only owned the sanitarium for a few years.
Pretty sad.
After all that fighting, and then to only... Yeah.
Must be rough.
The best laid plans.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, sadly, many had died from a fatal disease despite the care given. Patients were often encouraged to sleep outside or with the windows open, even on cold winter nights, which, I mean, here it doesn't get too cold, right? So there are many hikers who say there are hauntings up there. Some say that the spirits of the dead can be heard while hiking up the canyon, as many deaths occurred in and around Dripping Springs.
Have you ever heard, we're side, have you all ever heard of the Oregon Lights?
No, I haven't.
So I've also lived here my entire life. Yeah. Multiple generations of my family have been here. And apparently there are these lights all over that you can see on the mountain. And I wonder if it has anything, this might be a fun ghost story. And I know a photographer who works at a company here in town who has taken pictures of the lights.
Are they like orb lights? Or
I think they're like giant orb lights, and they're just like, they'll be on the mountain. And I'm like, yes, we need to look at
We need to go camping at the Dripping Springs. That would be fun.
And I want to know if anyone out there is listening, if you've heard of like hauntings up in Dripping Springs, we might want to hear from you. That sounds like a fun topic.
You could be a guest.
Yes. Okay, back to the story. Sorry.
Okay. So, Dr. Boyd's an interesting guy. He married into a very wealthy Australian family of engineers and developers, and he was the one trying to get a dam built near Las Cruces. But the farmers objected, and the dam was built further north, as we know today as the Elephant Butte Dam. In the 1920s, Boyd then sold the property to a Dr. Sexton from Las Cruces, who also used it as a sanitarium and resort. Dr. Sexton also sold the property in just several years.
I wonder if it's like kind of like haunted, that property.
I wonder, they didn't say why he got rid of it so quickly, but
it sounds like he has some bad luck around it. I know there's some bad juju going on there.
Yeah, kind of scary.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to point out that we have such a tie, this area, to Australia.
Crazy,
Remember we did the Pecan, which was our last Stallman Farms, and one of the children of Stallman's went and started a farm in Australia.
That's kind of crazy.
This is interesting.
I want to go visit now.
Yeah. So in the late 1920s, Franklin Hayner bought the ranch homestead portion of the property from the Ascarates. So remember, this is Van Patten's daughter who married Ascarate. We have the deed showing this, and we can post it online so that you all can check it out and see it. Mr. Hayner owned a lumber yard in the city of Las Cruces and liked to escape to the mountains on the weekends, as we all do when it's 100 degrees out. He added a swimming pool to the property as well as a landing strip for airplanes and the building that now serves as the visitor center. So, if you've ever been to the visitor center, that's like the building. He died in 1946, and in 1950s, the ranch portion of the resort both were purchased by A.B. Cox.
So yet another owner. Well, Cox was a rancher and wanted to have his cattle on the fertile land near Dripping Springs. He also hosted many guests at the resort portion of the property, as he was a well-liked and respected man in the community. He died in 1975, but ranching continued.
Well, as it turns out, the areas of the ranches and resorts housed a number of rare plants, so the Nature Conservancy held great interest in these properties. In 1988, the Cox family sold a portion of their land to the Nature Conservancy. They in turn transferred the property to the Bureau of Land Management, who currently still owns it. We have the deed that shows that land transfer in November of the year 1988, illustrating the land going from Florence Cox, his widow, to the Nature Conservancy, and then another deed showing the parcels going to the Bureau of Land Management.
That's so interesting. And I love seeing those old docs and just seeing, that record. So in 1990, the area was named Organ Mountain National Conservation Area, and the trail to hike the area was designed and formed. Volunteers also carved out a path to see La Cueva, which is on a nearby trail. And finally, in 2014, the area was named Organ Mountain Desert Peaks National Monument. So I don't know about, I'm sure you all and Jacob behind camera today, do you guys remember doing field trips out to Dripping Springs?
It's been a while.
You never went to Dripping Springs for a field trip?
No, the closest thing was probably White Sands. But no, not a field trip to Dripping Springs.
So I remember doing the field trip to
Yeah.
Dripping Springs, and it was like, I want to say it might have been combined with the White Sands trip. I feel like we went to White Sands first because it was hot, and so you had to go in the morning. And White Sands is like a giant mirror, so you don't want to be out there when it's really hot. And then for lunch, we stopped in Dripping Springs, and we all like had our little bag lunches and did the hike and stuff of Dripping Springs.
Yeah, I think we did it back in like kinder, first grade.
Yeah, I
but
remember
it's
being
been a
young and
while.
doing it, and it was just a fun.
Wow, that's really young
fun little trip,
to do that trail.
I think this we had the most energy too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I also remember, petting little rattlesnakes, and I remember petting one.
Ooh.
Like one of the guides,
Yeah.
I guess maybe a BLM person, like caught the baby rattlesnake, which are more poisonous than an
Yeah.
adult one, and then we all got in a line to pet it. And I remember also petting one when we did a field trip to Jornada,
Oh, okay.
to the Jornada site.
Yeah.
And also again, one of the guides finding one and then holding it, printing the neck, and then all the kids got in line to pet this.
That
I
doesn't
know,
sound
right?
scary
Like
at
now
all.
I'm like, nope, I'm out.
okay.
But
they
as
say-
a child, I was fine with it.
Well, that
They
sounds
say
fun.
New York City is dangerous. I don't know about that.
Yeah, all the snakes are
Yeah.
fun.
But I remember, it's kind of a thing, like going, like that was one of the, like everyone did a field trip out to Dripping
Yeah.
Springs. Yeah.
It's fun.
And you think it's a low budget field trip too.
For teachers, though, I mean that's a lot
I
to keep
know,
track
yeah.
of.
Oh, just FYI, I just read on Nextdoor, the app, that Dripping Springs is free of charge for the month of May.
Oh,
nice, very
fun.
So
nice.
if
So if
you're
you're
interested in
looking to-
seeing some of the things we're talking about, you can do it for free.
I get it's hot though, so you have to go early.
You have
in
to
the
Yes,
day
go
because-
early in the day. That's right.
Well, it's a historic and beautiful area to explore, and the remains of the past owners are visible to the public as they spent relatively easy days hiking up the Dripping Springs. The visitor center is the former home of rancher Mr. Hayner. An old mine called the Modic Mining Camp is right at the entrance of the canyon. It once produced lead, silver, and copper. As you head up towards the Van Patten Resort, you will come to the livery, which is where the hotel and resort received goods and passengers, and there was even some chickens and a small garden up there. If you continue up to Van Patten's mountain camp, you'll see the remains of the buildings that house the hotel and the resort. The original hotel had 14 rooms. On this path, you'll also see the springs, which are often barely a trickle, but years ago, the water supplied all the needs of the hotel.
It's hard to imagine how much water must have been there at that time.
Exactly.
So I don't know if you guys have ever gone out after it rains. If you've ever gone to sea.
No.
No, I haven't.
Just going out to the Organs after it rains and all the little waterfalls happen.
Oh, yeah. I see all the pictures.
Because so much water is coming off those mountains.
Okay.
And I mean, in the middle of the desert, there's these gorgeous
It's a great
waterfalls.
sight, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Beautiful.
really pretty to be out
cool.
there.
And then going back on the trail for the sanitarium, you will find the remains of Dr. Boyd's dining hall. It's sort of creepy when you know how many tuberculosis patients died there. And in the right light, it can look kind of haunting. Then you'll have a nice walk downhill, back to your car, back toward the visitor center. And the Organ Mountains Desert Peak National Monument is really a gem in our area. And if you haven't been there, get out there and see it for yourself.
Have you been yet,
I
Bert?
have.
Yeah?
I've gone a couple of times.
How
Yeah.
fun.
Does it look haunted?
In a certain light, I remember getting up to the sanitarium and just whatever way the light was setting on the house, it looked creepy.
Uh-oh.
It did look creepy.
Yeah.
And I didn't see orbs. I didn't see or hear anything, but just the fact that it's old and kind of decrepit is creepy enough. But knowing people died,
Yeah.
you know,
So sad, too.
yeah, yeah.
That's so interesting. I think this is such a fun topic, and we love our ghost stories here on this podcast. But man,
we do.
yeah, but wouldn't that be fun? Maybe we should take a trip out there and
would
go
be
and record out
fun.
there. Jacob's like, "Yep, let's do it."
Has to
Field
lug up
trip,
all
field
the
trip.
equipment up there. It'll be fun.
This is such a fun topic. I'm glad you brought this one to us, Bern.
too.
How'd you come across this one?
It's funny because you just keep seeing the same names over and over again. Van Patten,
A street name here in town?
a street name here in town. Dr. Boyd, just over and over again, and you see the interconnectedness of this small city
Yeah.
and this small county, and how they were very active people, and they were active in all areas and made things happen. They were the movers and the shakers, and they made the history of this place very interesting.
Absolutely.
And Dripping Springs was just one of the first places I'd been to. When I came to visit my daughter, she took me there like day 2.
Yeah.
And there was a trickle that day. There was no big rain or anything, but it was beautiful. And just the backdrop of the mountains
It's nice.
is amazing. We stopped and had lunch there. Never gone hiking. My husband and I will stop and we'll just have lunch at the tables there.
Yeah.
Because the view is just fantastic.
How fun.
So that kind of drew me to the story, and the characters are always a bonus.
I didn't know there were so many names tied to this area, like Dr. Boyd and Van Patten. I didn't know there was so much history behind. And I've lived in Las Cruces my entire life, so it's pretty sad that I don't know these things, but thank you for bringing this story to us.
course.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
It was a fun
This is
one.
a cool one. It's interesting to think about how many kind of these resorts are in town. I know there's one like up Radium Springs area. Not Radium. Yeah, Radium Springs has kind of a resort like this. And it's interesting, like, I wonder, like, what happened to them? And then, like, you kind of, like, shone some light on what happened to the one up in Dripping Springs. And then also, it said that, like, it had water, and now I'm like, there's only water up there if it's monsoon season, and we had some rain, and I'm like, how much water was up there? It's just interesting that it, like, supplied them, and they had a garden. Like, what?
It's crazy. And then the
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
that they wanted to build a dam up there. I'm
Yes.
like, how?
Yeah.
I can't imagine it anywhere else besides Elephant Butte.
Yeah, 100%
Crazy.
agree. Yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I think that's it for this episode. I want to thank Bernardine Caporale, our producer, for joining us today and bringing us this awesome topic. Jacob behind camera, Jacob Slaughter, our producer and editor. Also, our other producer and co-host, Cynthia Mendoza, our communications coordinator. I'm Caroline Zamora, the Chief Deputy County Clerk. If you have any feedback, comments, questions for us on the podcast, you can always email us, daclerk@doñanacounty.org. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.